All right, let's look at hatching and at cutting plane lines for this drawing that we're going to make. I have started a drawing here. I haven't filled in much detail, but it'll be enough to talk about. I'm going to guess that in your title block, this particular drawing will probably be at a scale of 1 to 2. Let's try that. I'll double click inside the viewport and I'll go down to the bottom to this pop-up list of scales and I'll select 1 to 2 and close my viewport. That looks like it could work. Or could it? I might not have enough room. Yeah, probably will. I'm going to leave it at 1 to 2. You might decide to do otherwise. Okay. Now, for hatching, hopefully you have made a hatch layer for yourself. And hopefully your hatch layer has a line weight that is thin, which in the mechanical world is 0.3. So I've made my hatch layer current, and now I want to hatch this stuff. So I'm going to go over to the Draw panel and click Hatch. And here under the patterns, we have a whole bunch of patterns to choose from, but we are just going to go with ANSI 131 because we are mechanical people right now. ANSI 131. Now, we could try picking points and see what it looks like, but I bet they're too close together. Yeah, look at what that looks like. And if you go out to your paper space, they look all smushed up. So I would say no. We made our paper space a scale of 1 to 2, you recall. So let us, in our hatch, let us make our hatch scale 2, which is the way it's supposed to work. So our viewport scale factor is 2. We'll make our hatch scale 2. We'll make our dimension scale 2. We'll make our line type scale 2. All right, so I've set the hatch scale to 2. Now I can pick points, and it will hatch inside that boundary. Yay, that's looking good. Speaking of line type scale, why don't we set that while we are here? I'm going to type LT scale. And this says it was set at a scale factor of 1, so I'm going to set it to 2. And see how that made my dashes longer? They now match the viewport scale that we have. All right, the other thing we wanted to talk about was cutting plane lines. Hopefully you made a cutting plane layer in your title block. Hopefully you made it a Phantom 2 line type, and you made it thick, 0.6, just as thick as an object layer. And I'll click this thing to make it the current layer. Okay, now if I make a line, that looks good. Oops, yeah. So for my cutting plane layer, I probably want to make an arrow down, a line down here, and I don't have my hole with my angle thing to line up with here. Sorry about that. I'll just draw some line that's about the right angle. Okay, there's the start of my cutting plane line. Now, first thing you might notice is that I have a cutting plane line lying right over the top of a center line, and we don't want that because the gaps in one line often lie over the solid line and the other line, so the whole thing looks solid and you can't read it. So what I will do is I will trim my center line. So this center line here, I'm just going to grab that grip, click it so it's a hot grip, and just move the end point of the center line. So there's no center line down here, there's just a center line up here. Okay, now about the arrows on these things. We are going to need a new leader style. If we're going to use leaders at all for anything else, we'll need to leave their arrows at their 1/8 scale length. We'll need a new style for the big arrows. So I'm going to go to the Annotate tab. This is where we can set our text style, our dimension style, and our leader style. So in the Annotate tab, here is the panel for leaders, and I will click the down arrow. And I'm going to make a new style, so I'll click the new button, and I will call this cutting plane line. Okay, leader format. So right here in this first tab are the arrowhead settings, and I need to change this arrowhead setting. It was 1/8. I'm going to make it 250, 1/4 of an inch long. Alrighty, what else? For purposes of making a cutting plane line, I find this landing to be a bother, because we're not making text with these things, we're just making arrows. So I am going to uncheck this box. There's a box here that says automatically include landing. I don't want to. Doink. And then remember about scale. Our viewport is going to scale everything down half size, 1 to 2. So you want to set this scale to 2, and that's probably all we need. We're not putting in text, so who cares? And the current leader style is cutting plane line, so we're all set. Remember that the leader arrows go upstream, so when we start a leader, we'll need to start out here in space and pull to the left or wherever we're pulling. That will make that arrow appear. And then I don't want text, so I'm just going to hit escape to get out of there. That leg is probably too long, but I could fix that. Then for the arrow up here, now I'm sure you know more about this than I do, and you are probably going to have a quicker way of doing this. But here's what I do, the slow and stupid way, but it works. I am going to, and let me just mention about O-snaps. Perpendicular O-snap is your friend in this case, so make sure that one is turned on. So I'm going to get a leader, going to come out here in space somewhere and drag towards my thing until the perpendicular O-snap lights up. Click, and done. Now that's in the wrong place, but now I can move that thing up to the end point. So that's how I make those little short arrows. You may have a better way. And if I want to shorten this one, I don't know, do you remember the, let me go back to the home thing. Do you remember the stretch command? I don't know if you've used that before, but it's awfully handy. And notice when you hover over this, it says it stretches objects crossed by a window. In other words, a right crossing window. So I'm going to type S for stretch, because I like to type. Select objects. I'm going to do a right crossing window. So click, cross, click, enter. And now when you select a point, it will let you move that point to someplace else. And I'll just move it, oops, I'll just move it in a little bit to there if it will let me. That's the stretch command. All right, we'll come back next time and we will talk about putting those tolerance dimensions on your drawing and putting the enlarged detail on your drawing.